Joining us now, Congressman Brad Wenstrup, a Republican on the House Intelligence Committee. Thank you for joining us this morning, sir. As far as I can tell, this is the first that we're going to hear from you, a member of that committee, on reaction to this news and what should happen with your colleague.
Well, you know, China is a serious concern, and this whole event is a serious concern. And I think that we need to learn more about what actually took place from Mr. Swallwell. I mean, this is a situation where I question where the Speaker might be. Did the Speaker of the House know about this incident before she appointed Mr. Swallwell to the Intelligence Committee? Did Adam Schiff know about it before Eric Swalwell got appointed to the Intelligence Committee? And you know, one of the things that's very disturbing is obviously the hypocrisy of Mr. Swalwell, who vehemently and erroneously went after the President Trump and his campaign team about Russia. It was all Russia, 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 and he showed no concern about China, which if he went through an event of some type, that he should be greatly concerned about China, and we didn't hear from him on that. The other thing that really has me concerned and why he needs to at least address the Intelligence Committee is he has been out there saying, I can't talk about this because of classified information. So the question becomes, what classified information did he actually potentially share with this Chinese agent? These are all things that we should be aware of, and actually all members of Congress should be briefed on the types of things that China is doing so that they can be alerted, and that's not happening, and the Speaker is just trying to bury this, and I don't think it should be buried because it's of great national significance for our national security.
We'll see what she has to say. The microphone is up, the shot is up. We have not seen her begin speaking yet. When she does, we'll certainly take that. Congressman, were you or any members of the Intelligence Committee on which you and Eric Swalwell sit briefed on the fact that he was targeted by a Chinese spy?
I was not informed of any of this. I'm hearing about it really for the first time through the media this week, and that's even more concerning, because if this is happening to members, and as far as I can tell, he was not a member of the Intelligence Committee at that time. But he is now, and this would be the type of information that if you care about the security of the country and you've done nothing wrong, you would want to be able to share what took place with him if he's innocent of everything. But instead, it's we don't want to talk about it. It sounds like the Speaker is going to try and just sweep it under the rug. So these are problems, and I think we can at least get in a secure facility and hear from Mr. Swalwell himself to explain what exactly happened. And like I said he can't talk because of classified information. He can talk about classified information with the other members of the Intelligence Committee, and he should.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy was on Fox News earlier. He was really fired up on all cylinders on this, and he believes that he should be removed from the committee. He poses a threat to our national security. Listen.
This man should not be in the Intel Committee. He's jeopardizing national security. What is being said in those meetings inside the SCIF that we don't want other people to hear or listen?
So should he be removed from the committee?
Well, I think that we need to have a conversation with him to really discuss what took place and let the decisions be made from there. But it is of great concern. If, you know, I served in the military, we get read in on things. We get learned, if you will, on how to detect people that are trying to come after us in some way, shape, or form. We get some of that with the Intelligence Committee, and we get some of that with members of Congress to beware. And if this is the type of person that can be vulnerable to being invaded and to become a tool for the Chinese, then we need to know that. And if there's any type of a pattern here. But again, we need to have this conversation, a frank conversation within the committee, because it makes it difficult for us to trust our colleagues on the committee if these questions are hanging out there. So that's one good reason why he shouldn't be there unless everything is answered and we can restore some confidence in him and his character.
Do you have any other concerns that it wasn't him being vulnerable to being a target of a Chinese spy, that he could have been acting with them? That was suggested by Kevin McCarthy that could be a case. Do you share that?
Well, it does strike me as curious as to why, if this happened before you were on the Intelligence Committee, you're not telling everyone about it now, especially on the Intelligence Committee, to let us know what actually took place. If you're innocent, you would share information and come forward and say, hey, I want everyone to know this is the type of thing the Chinese are doing. He didn't want to talk about the Chinese. He's been all Russia and wrong on Russia.
Why do you think that is?
That's the question that needs to be answered, and I think that a lot of those questions need to be answered, including by the Speaker of the House.
I mean, that sounds, as far as national security is concerned, what you're saying, that's a big statement. And Kevin McCarthy also said, he says he wants the FBI director to brief him on what went down. Are you asking for the same?
Oh, I would love to hear from the FBI director and to know exactly what they found and what happened and why didn't they brief us on it before? You know, why wasn't it brought to our attention on the Intelligence Committee? And that should be something that would be brought forward to us, whether Mr. Swallwell was on the committee or not. If that type of thing happened, that's the type of things that we should know about as we have oversight, and especially as we're there representing the members of Congress to make them aware that these actors are out there and they're doing things you don't want to be engaged with. And so why this has been swept under the carpet and he didn't want to talk about it now, it really is challenging. And so, listen, 4 years of listening to Mr. Swallwell talk about Russian collusion that didn't happen and act like it did, and now you add this to it, the trust is just not there, and it makes it difficult for us as a committee that, when I first got on it, was very nonpartisan, and it makes it difficult for us to trust one of our colleagues as we sit there and deal with high-level intelligence.
We just heard you say the trust is just not there, but he's still on the Intelligence Committee of the House of Representatives. Is he still receiving classified information?
As far as I know, he is, and that is a grave concern. Maybe it should be suspended for now until we get some answers, and I'm going to suggest that. I don't know if we'll get anywhere, and I'm certainly going to be concerned with what the Speaker's about to say.
We are going to listen for that as well, sir. Mark Stein was on Tucker last night, and he makes the suggestion that the FBI is responsible for mishandling the situation with Eric Swalwell. Listen to this.
There's something serious going on. The FBI, for example, when they find out she's a spy, why don't they turn her? Why don't they just put her in a room in a safe house and say, okay, you're working for us now? Instead, they go to Swallwell and tip Swallwell off that his bumpity-bumping with the Chinese spy has come to their attention, and he tells her and she leaves the country. That's actually an FBI scandal and a Swallwell scandal.
Do you share that concern?
Well, I do have a concern. I have a concern about different levels of the FBI. You know, I tell my agents in my district, listen, I have full faith and confidence in you and the agents that are out there each and every day. But what we saw in the last 4 years is we had a component of the FBI that was willing to go after people politically. So maybe in the same vein, they're not willing to go after people because of politics. And that's a concern. All these things the American people should get to know about. And if we have people within the FBI that are turning their head on someone because of their political party, that we need to know about as well.
That is a big suggestion on your part. Have you called your colleague in the committee, Eric Swalwell? Have you spoken with him about this?
No, I don't speak to him very often, one-on-one.
Do you intend
I used to.
Do you intend to?
Well, I think that we should do it as a group. I don't necessarily need to have a one-on-one conversation with him, but I think that we should be in a secure facility and get answers in a formal way from him.
That's not already in the works? That's not already happening?
Nope.
Shouldn't it be?
I think so, but there again, I'll go back to where is Adam Schiff on this? Where, you know, you got the three Californians, you got Pelosi, Schiff, and Swalwell. Where is Adam Schiff on this, and why was he not concerned? I have a pretty good idea that he knew about it as Eric Swalwell got on the committee, and he never said anything about it to any of us.
To that point, that's another point Kevin McCarthy brought up. Part of his questions and his concern is how Eric Swalwell, at the level he was at the time, even made it onto this committee, considering the requirements and the experience that it takes for both parties to agree to put someone on that committee. Is that something you think about too?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I didn't just walk into that committee. I had to make my case to, at the time, Speaker Boehner, and then again to Paul Ryan, and then to Kevin McCarthy. And I cited the responsibilities I had when I deployed to Iraq, the level of confidence people had in me to trust me with high-level information and to carry out our mission. And those were some of my experiences. And I don't know what they do on the Democrat side because, you know, again, it's appointed by the Speaker or the leader. So I'm not sure what criteria they're actually looking for that would make someone have some type of qualifications to get onto this committee, and especially if you knew, and I don't know if she knew, that he had a problem of engaging with the Chinese. And again, we'll wait and see what she has to say today, but I certainly would like to hear some things from some people under oath.
So you'll tell us if that will happen and if that's what your committee is planning on. Congressman, when you talk about the threat that China poses, here's Mike Pompeo on that. I'll ask you a question on the other side. Okay, we don't have it. He says we cannot, he's talking about the regime as a whole, stealing information. He says that they're stealing our stuff. They've built their military, might brainwash our people, buy off our institutions to help cover up these activities. Okay, it's a big statement. I'll tie in what we're talking about with Eric Swallwell into the Hunter Biden story and all of the questions that you and your colleagues have on that. So tie this all together and talk about national security, sir, and what all of this means for America.
So what that means is, if you engage this story and that story, is there a possibility that someone is compromised? Is there a possibility that someone is working with the foreign entity? This is not new in America. We've had these incidents throughout our time. Today, though, the main threat in this arena is China. They're not the only one. Don't get me wrong. They're not. Russia is still a concern. But why were so many, especially on the Intelligence Committee on the other side of the aisle, ignoring China, basically? And so we really have elevated this. You heard the Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, talk about it recently, driving home the point. We want Americans to know that this is what is taking place. It's taking place in our universities. We are seeing arrests take place of researchers, of doctors, of engineers that have been engaging with the Chinese to steal some of our technology, to steal our secrets. We now have at our universities administrative people with the universities getting clearances so that we can inform our universities of what is taking place on their campus that they may not be aware of. So this is a big deal on a large scale, and we have to address it. China is not our friend. Let's just be clear. They are not our friend right now. I'd love it if we just all got along and we could trust them, but we can't. And you're seeing more and more of that, and it's probably just the tip of the iceberg in so many ways. And I can tell you there's a lot of members that have stories of Chinese circulating in their neighborhoods. And you also are hearing about it going down to the level of mayors. They're trying to engage with mayors. They look at it like a farm team. You know, they start to build relationships with people that may someday be here at the national level as well. This is the type of things that they do, and we're starting to see that being reported.
And we are currently under a president who claims to be the toughest president that we've had on China. We're now going through a presidential transition. What does that mean for investigations like Hunter Biden, that we now know has been investigated for his overseas business dealings for years and is his alleged tax fraud?
We have to decide as a country if we are interested in truth and justice and things that take place within our country. You know, I was in my teens when Watergate took place, and even at that time I knew as a Republican, but I felt if Richard Nixon did something wrong, we need to investigate it, we need to find out, and as it turned out, historically, he even left office.
Okay.
So this is the type of country that we need to be, that on a bipartisan basis, we will investigate and find out the truth of things so that we can keep America safe and make sure that we aren't vulnerable to foreign entities that really want to take us over in many ways and in many arenas.
Okay, we are told that Nancy Pelosi is about to take questions there in that room. We'll certainly be listening for that. Meanwhile, as far as the threat that China poses versus the threat that Russia poses, John Ratcliffe over the weekend was suggesting that China is a much bigger threat than Russia. Where do you stand on that, sir?
I would agree with him. Based on the things that I've seen and am able to see, China is the greater threat. And look, and they're using every tool they possibly can. They're trying to diplomatically coerce people in their region to engage with them, and they try to lock them into their sphere of influence, if you will. They're using their military. They're expanding their military, and just look at South China Sea, and you can see the types of things that they're doing. And they make it very clear that they want to be the economic superpower in the world. Well, I think it's very harmful for the world for a communist regime to be the #1 superpower in the world. And America is who everyone is turning to step up and be the leader for all of free people throughout the world. And we've got to do that, and we've got to manage it within our own country as well as help out around the world.
What does our toughness on China mean under a Biden administration?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I haven't seen anything very strong. Previous comments by Mr. Biden have suggested that China is our friend and not to worry. And I'm sure you can bring up some clips of him saying things like that. And so that's a concern that we have as members of Congress, and especially sitting on Intelligence Committee. Maybe he needs to be reread in on some things to understand that this is not a little game that's being played. And diplomacy is one way to try and manage things, but we have to make sure that they aren't cheating on anything that we might agree to with them.
Congressman, I know I've kept you for a lot of your time this morning, and I appreciate that. If I could, before I let you go, circle back to this Eric Swallwell story and the fact that he is still receiving some of our top information, classified information, important to the national security of this country. I just wonder, it just surprises me that you tell me that there has not been communication within the committee to organize formally an information session at a minimum as to what went down. I mean, we know publicly that he hasn't denied this relationship, right? But we haven't gotten an explanation. Why is the Intelligence Committee not demanding that? And how can you waste any more time?
Well, first of all, Adam Schiff is in charge of the Intelligence Committee, and he would have to call that. And then you have the Speaker of the House, and she's the one that appoints, and she's the one that could remove him from that committee, even if she wanted to do it to suspend him for a while. But right now, just like I can walk into that SCIF and meet with staff and get information and see what's going on in the intelligence community. And as far as I know right now, Mr. Swallwell can do the same thing and has been able to do that for going on, I think it's 4 or 6 years he's been on the committee. And that's a concern, I think, for all of us. And you raise that concern. I'm glad that you do, because I think America wants to know, well, exactly how much were you engaged and where are we going to go from there? But we don't run the committee right now. But as Republicans, we are looking into it and getting as much information as we possibly can. But we got to hear from the FBI.
We're hearing Nancy Pelosi talking about China now. Congressman, thank you for your time.